Imagine, if you will, that you're at a party and they're playing nothing but the absolute greasiest, darkest, bad man sound, wobble bass, dubstep music. And everyone looks like they're having a great time, but not you, okay? Because you don't really like dubstep music. So you go up to the DJ and you're like, hey man, could you put on some folk punk? Because in this scenario, you were the world's most entitled folk punk fan, all right? And the DJ goes, folk punk? Hell yeah, man, I got some folk punk for you right here, all right? This song is so folk punk. It was recorded in an illegally boarded freight train on a guitar with 4 strings with a heroin needle as a pick. And you're like, that sounds awesome. Put that on. So he puts on the song, Cotton-Eyed Joe Gregorian Chant Nightcore Hardcore Dubstep Remix. So you say to the DJ, this is not folk punk. This is just more dubstep. He goes, no way, man. This is totally folk punk, dude. Come on. This singer for this band is a literal stick and poke tattoo. This is folk punk. But it's not folk punk. It's clearly not folk punk. And even though it's definitely not folk punk, a few people at the party kind of perk up and they're like, well, what is this, folk punk? We came here to listen to dubstep. This is a dubstep party. These people have been at this dubstep party for so long that they've forgotten what folk punk even is, if they ever knew. That can happen, all right? That's the dangers of dubstep. If we categorize all music on a spectrum in between folk punk and dubstep, okay? On the left, you've got Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains. On the right, you've got Skrillex. And in between, you've got all other music that exists. All right? This is, by the way, the best way to categorize music. The longer you spend at this dubstep party, the smaller this spectrum appears to you until that Cotton-Eyed Joe remix sounds like folk punk to you, despite its absolutely wobbable drops. Guess what? I tricked you. I'm not actually talking about folk punk and dubstep at all. I'm really talking about US politics. Bam! Welcome to Did I Just Blow Your Mind? With your host, yes I did. So the folk punk to dubstep spectrum is metaphorically and literally the left to right political spectrum in the US. And this little rectangle here of the dubstep party is what's known as the Overton Window, the window of acceptable political thought. Now, if you pay attention to US politics, you hear a lot about socialism and the radical left coming to take everything over. But here's the crazy thing. Mainstream US politics has no radical left. I know, it's crazy, right? The US is like one giant 24/7 dubstep party, okay? Except for instead of bass wobbles, you have Immortan Joe from Mad Max in a suit demanding that you die for minimum wage. Side note, I think I actually saw a guy like that at a real-life dubstep party, but that's neither here nor there. So, what should we consider the radical left? It's not like that term has a specific dictionary definition. Well, I think at a minimum, we should only really consider truly socialist politicians who want to abolish capitalism. This would include communists like anarchists and Marxist-Leninists, as well as just socialists in general. Ridiculously, socialist is used as an insult by the right to attack center-right, neoliberal, corporatist Democrats like Joe Biden. Anyone who truly believes this has been at that dubstep party for way too long, okay? If you showed up in the US and you were like, hey, you guys have any socialists here? And somebody was like, yeah, check out this guy. We call him the Che of America. And they pointed at Joe Biden, you would just think that guy was an idiot. And you would not be wrong. That guy would be an idiot. Now, there are people in US politics who describe themselves as democratic socialists. You know, your Bernie Sanders, your AOCs, right? But democratic socialist is actually quite a bold term to use to describe these people. It would be more accurate to call them social democrats, which is a term for politicians in countries like Norway and Sweden that have similar policies like Medicare for all, taxing the rich, you know, free college. I know this makes me sound like an unbelievably huge loser, right? Sorry, Bernie Sanders, but
technically, you're more of a social democrat than a democratic socialist. Oh, and also, Star Wars is less of a science fiction series than it is a space fantasy. So, maybe next time try to get it right. Thank you.
Okay, but there is actually a difference, a significant difference. Democratic socialism should still involve dismantling capitalism, whereas social democracy is still capitalist, it just has a strong social safety net. So the capitalists get to keep their private property, the workers don't get control of the means of production, but if you get sick, you get to go to the hospital for free, or at least for very cheap. In fact, a social democracy can actually be looked at as a way to strengthen capitalism, right? Because, you lift up the people at the bottom, you give their lives more dignity, right? Improve morale all around. All of a sudden, maybe people don't want their socialist revolution anymore, okay? So, yes, corporations and billionaires will be taxed more, but rich people will still exist. You might not be able to buy as many stretch limousine yachts, but the few that you do have, you can enjoy without having as many nightmares about the guillotine. So you win some, you lose some. So actual socialism is about the workers owning the means of production, abolishing capitalism, transitioning either right away or over time into a classless, stateless, moneyless society. Okay? Trust me, you would have noticed if Bernie Sanders had dropped that into his campaign platform. Okay?
I pledge to give everyone in this nation free healthcare. We're going to forgive student loan debt. There's going to be no such thing as money, and we'll finally put a stop to these endless wars with the Klingons.
So where do we place these democratic socialists of U.S. politics if we can agree that they're not really on the radical left side of the spectrum? I mean, to me, it would make more sense to put them in the center, because most of the radical left positions that they have are extremely popular. Okay, your Medicare for all, Green New Deal, legalizing marijuana. These are policies that most people in the US actually agree with them on. And yet, these people are constantly being dismissed as being part of the radical left. Let's take Medicare for all, okay? According to a recent poll, 69% of American US voters support a single-payer healthcare system. 69%. Nice, right? That's huge. That's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, okay? And by the way, that includes all registered voters. That doesn't just include Democrats. If we only look at what the Democrat support is, it's 88%. That's almost everybody, okay? So, by the way, I think it's important I mention this is from a poll on April 20th of 2020. So that makes this a 69% result from 420, 42069, hashtag blaze it. Coolest poll of all time. Anyway, so wait a second. If 88% of American registered Democratic voters want Medicare for all, why do the most powerful people in that party come out so strongly against it? Why is it talked about on Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC as this hugely controversial, divisive issue? Well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that these ideas are constantly being dismissed as too far left, socialist, or communist, right? Because the Overton Window is not always a reflection of what the populace of a country actually wants or, believes. It's a reflection of what people consider acceptable. So maybe there are people at this dubstep party who are ready for some folk punk. Maybe people are getting sick of the dubstep. Maybe there's some people who never liked dubstep to begin with. I know some people like that, believe it or not, right? But if you're at this dubstep party and everyone seems to be having fun and you're looking at the posters on the walls and they say stuff like dubstep rules and we love dubstep and the folk punks hate our freedom, you would maybe start to think that you were listening to the music that everybody else wanted to be listening to. But you're not. Because of this, the Overton Window can be used as a tool by politicians who want to enact policy that will help corporations or reinforce the status quo while still acting like they're doing what the masses want them to do. As uncontroversial leftist favorite Noam Chomsky says,
"The smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum, even encourage the more critical and dissident views. That gives people the sense that there's free thinking going on, while all the time the presuppositions of the system are being reinforced by the limits put on the range of the debate.
Thanks, Chomsk. Confession time. Here goes. I'm a Canadian. Yes, I know. Settle down over there, yeah. But yeah, in Canada, our conception of, left and right is a little bit different from how it is down south. For example, Medicare for all, we already have that, and we love it. No Canadian politician on the left or right would ever consider campaigning on privatizing healthcare. We see what a nightmare it is for the Americans. We don't want anything to do with that. Okay, so in this aspect, Joe Biden would actually be too far to the right to run even as a part of the Canadian Conservative Party. But at the same time, our most left-wing political party here, the NDP, is often talked about as being socialist just because they want to add to our free healthcare system things like mental health, dental care, eye care, pharmaceuticals, okay? Which is so strange, right? Because for some reason, the health of most of the human body is considered a bipartisan issue here, but as soon as you start talking about the three most important parts of the head, all of a sudden you're a socialist? It's like, whoa, okay, slow down there, Karl Marx, all right? The free market will collapse if we just give handouts to people who have sick teeth, sick eyes, and sick brains. It makes no sense, right? But, I will say, in Canada, it is amazing how important the sentence, at least we're not as bad as the US is, okay? Like, it may as well be our national slogan, right? I would love it if the US could elect some social democrats so that Canada will be forced to move to the left as well, because then we would be able to keep up our national pastime of being condescending towards Americans. Am I doing that right now? Sorry if I am. So if politicians can use the Overton window as a tool, maybe we can too, right? I mean, why can't we just reframe how we think about these far left ideas? Because Medicare for all, taxing the rich, Green New Deal, legalizing marijuana, okay, eliminating student loan debt, free state colleges, legalizing marijuana, these are not far left ideas. These are extremely popular policies. Let's start thinking about and talking about them as if they're centrist, because they are. AOC is a centrist. Bernie Sanders is a centrist, right? Remember, there are plenty of people at that dubstep party who do want to hear the Cotton Eye Joe remix, but they've got it into their heads that nobody else wants that. So, yeah, let's just do it. Just listen to it, America. Listen to it. You know you want to. Listen to the Cotton Eye Joe Gregorian chant, nightcore, hardcore, dubstep remix. It's really good. I'll put a link in the description. It's not quite folk punk, but it's pretty good. And maybe if we can get people on board with that, down the road, we can ask the DJ to put on some Andrew Jackson Jihad. That was a stupid metaphor, eh? I can't believe I kept that up for the whole thing. Whatever. So stupid. I think